I even heard a rumor that a Shadron Rotary Club had a presentation about the death penalty.
Yes.
That's quite a bit of coverage for a small organization. What do you think the likelihood that we're going, I mean, someone might think, oh, we're just, they're going to do a good job, raise some awareness, that's great, but they're not going to abolish the death penalty in this next session. How do you respond to that?
I think we came awful close last time, and nobody was really even talking about it prior to this happening. Not no one, but it wasn't nearly as big of an issue and debate as seems to be now. And we fell just one vote short of passing it. We do, of course, need to get a few more to override the very likely veto from the governor. But I do believe that there is a change coming, a kind of a tide of change on this issue. And I think that many people that have never thought about it, as we spoke about earlier, are thinking about this issue and realize that we really need to change the way that we're conducting ourselves. And so I think that the chances are very good as long as we keep people active and engaged. I think that this is one of those issues. Sometimes I wonder if maybe activists don't like their issues to stay around so they can stay active, but this one I think people are willing to actually win this battle and make that first step, because there are certainly a lot of other issues to work on as well, and maybe it's time that we really close the door on one and get on to other things that we need to deal with.
I think it's so possible it's going to happen in 08 that my salary is not a large one, but I'd bet my next paycheck that we might accomplish this in 2008. I'm that hopeful, and if it doesn't happen in 08, it's going to happen in 09. The reality is that we as a society don't think about prison issues much or criminal justice issues much. The average person doesn't have a family member who is facing the death penalty. The average person hasn't experienced a murder in their family. But it is our taxpayer money that is being used to pull the switch to kill another human being that we've never met. And it happens behind closed doors, in secrecy, oftentimes at midnight. It literally is, it smacks of sort of medieval Inquisition type behavior. I think more and more people are waking up to this. There's so many things that are beyond our control. Our government is bombing people in foreign countries with my tax dollars as well. But it's harder to grapple with that because it's happening at such a macro level. Nebraska is killing people in our names. We can grapple with that. I can pick up my phone and call my state senator and say, no, change your mind.
January 7th is the date of the press conference that your organization is hosting. I also happen to know that that's the date that the Supreme Court of the United States of America will be hearing a case about lethal injection. Is there any correlation? Is there a reason that that's the same date you're choosing?
We knew that this is a time when the nation is going to be paying attention to the issue again. And again, it's hard to attract attention to the issue. It's hard for many people to grapple with, and it's not a pleasant topic. It's really dealing with unpleasant actions that have happened, crimes, and our response to them. People don't want to pay attention to this on a regular basis, but the whole nation is going to be watching arguments in front of the U.S. Supreme Court discussing whether or not lethal injection is actually humane and passes muster under the 8th Amendment of the Constitution. So our legislative session here in Nebraska starts up just a few days later on the 9th, and so we thought the 7th made good sense both for the U.S. Supreme Court arguments making this a nationwide issue, and locally here at home our senators are going to be coming back and stepping back into their lawmaking role, and that's a good time to remind them. Change the law, change it back to life without parole, and that is what we're advocating. We're not soft on crime. We don't think these people should be sent off to camp and allowed to frolic. We're saying keep them locked behind walls for the rest of their lives, the rest of their natural lives. Do not ever allow the possibility for them to come up before a parole board. They have committed crimes that they need to pay for, but not pay with their lives.
What happens, Jill, if Nebraska abolishes the death penalty? How does that play out in the national debate?
I think that it would, like I said, I think it would be a great thing for the nation to see happen. I was in Chicago a few months ago at a conference that was hosted by Equal Justice USA, which is a national group that's helping to network for the states on these issues. And people are very much paying attention to what's going on in Nebraska. I didn't even realize that on the national scale, people really want to see what happens here. And if we are able to do this, I think that it will give kind of the boost to other states that need it, because, so like I said, New Jersey maybe getting rid of their death penalty, that often can be written off as the crazy East Coast liberals doing whatever they're going to do out there. But if the Midwest, common sense, average people decide that on a state level they are no longer willing to accept this type of behavior from our state, I think that makes a huge statement for people around the country to rally behind. And so I think that we are in a great position to help out, not only with this issue here, but just to really encourage other states to keep their work going.
We'd only have a couple minutes left in the show. In Nebraska, it's my understanding that we have a board of pardons. Is that right? And at the last minute, if somebody's going to be executed, there are 3 people that can make that final vote to stop or issue an injunction to stop the execution. And if my facts are right, I think that's the governor, Secretary of State, and the Attorney General. If you had 30 seconds, if you knew that one of those 3 people were going to hear you out right now, what would you say to them? What would be your message if we were on the eve of an impending execution?
My understanding, not being familiar personally with any of those people, all 3 of the men holding that office in Nebraska right now identify as Christians. And the very simple question is, does this comply with what Jesus' teachings were? Does Jesus indicate that death for people who are guilty of a terrible crime is appropriate? If the answer is no, how can you continue to worship the individual who set for you very clear guidelines and then turn your back on them for political expediency? It simply is not appropriate under any major world religion. It's the reason why most major countries, industrial countries, have abolished the death penalty. I don't know how any individual could go to sleep at night knowing that they had the power to save another human life of someone who's done something terrible. But they chose not to take that simple act to raise their hand and say, I'm going to stand up for the principles that I profess.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Jill and Amy. This is the Lancaster County Democrats Watchful Citizen TV show, www.nadp.net. If you want more information about the death penalty, www.lancastercountydemocrats.org if you'd like to know more about us and what we do. Thanks for tuning in.